DJ, PK, and Berry Tramel joins us once again to talk all things Big 12 football. Berry Tramel, of course, covering the league for decades, sports columnist for the Tulsa World. Berry, welcome back to the show.
Well, how you guys doing in Salt Lake? I hear you got into heated debate.
And you're here for heated debates. Let's get into it, Berry. What'd you hear and what do you think?
Oh, well. I didn't get the subject matter or even the what the parameters were. But
he told him he was late because we were in a heated debate. We were talking about
coaching. We're
talking about
proven commodities,
slam dunks. Yeah, Franklin gets fired. So,
now slam dunks is a good one.
Yeah,
it's a very Tramel seal of approval.
I can think of two. Mm-hmm. One of them coached in the fine city of Salt Lake for quite a while, or for a little while.
Urban Meyer.
That's the only two. Him and Saban are the only two I can think of.
That's what we said. Yeah. That was my point. Is they fired James Franklin, and who are they going to get that is a lock to be better? We're talking about, okay, we understand Florida State, we understand Florida, and some of these other guys, places that have been fired. But Franklin, it just seems like it's a roulette wheel, and wherever the little ball stops, if that's your name, then you get the job.
Yeah. The answer is they're not getting anybody that's a sure thing. They're not getting anybody that's going to be a home run. What we got, I don't know if we've talked about this, but what we've got is we've got a cult going on. The cult of coaches. Just the belief that one guy can save us. And it's really not a football thing. It's really not a sports thing. It's not even an American society thing. It's worldwide, and it's been around forever. This idea that we got to pay this guy $15 million because he's the only guy that can save us.
Right.
That's just madness. I've been telling people forever. We got way more good coaches in America than we do good football jobs. So why are you paying them so much money? There's a guy down the street just as good who you can pay, 3/4 of that for, and go buy yourself some linebackers and wide receivers that'll make a difference on Saturday.
Especially now, yeah.
I'm really waiting for that to take hold, and that doesn't seem to be taking hold.
So the players make more than the coach?
All these guys. Well, it's pro sports. That's what happens in pro sports.
Yeah, I know.
If college is pro sports. When do we get to that? Because that seems obvious, but that's not the way we're going. There's at least, we were just reading a story that set us off on this. I saw a story that 4 coaches now have leveraged the Penn State vacancy to get extensions. Maybe they were serious candidates, maybe they weren't, but the schools were scared enough they gave them more years and more money.
Well, and you know what? And they're scared that coaches are going to leave, and some of these administrators think it'll alienate their fan base and whatnot. I remember... What year was it? I was in Kansas City. I can remember my hotel room in Kansas City. I think it must have been 2002, maybe 2002. It's Bob Stoops' 4th year, and he'd won a title in his 2nd year, got close to making the championship game in his 3rd year, had another great year in his 4th year. And the Florida job, I think it was, came open again. And, of course, he came from Florida. Everybody was always worried he's going to leave. And Bob really didn't do anything wrong. I mean, he never, as far as I know, he never really leveraged in any kind of meaningful way what we're seeing today. But hot and heavy story. Bob Stoops is going to go to Florida or might go to Florida. And I wrote a column that said, listen, we all love Bob Stoops. He's done great, blah, blah, blah. But if he goes, he goes. If he wants to go to Florida, you got to let him go and tell the entire nation, hey, Oklahoma football is bigger than Bob Stoops. And this is, right on the cusp of the Big 12 championship game. And anytime you write something like that, of course, half the state just goes into a tizzy because you're affecting the psyche of the young lads in the shoulder pads. And you can't believe the positive response I got from that.
Oh, yeah?
All kinds of people emailed me that night, the next morning saying, that's exactly right. This is crazy. If he wants to go, let him go. We love him, but if he wants to go, I think some of this is false alarm on the part of administrators. On this, just we got to keep this coach. We got to have that coach.
Okay.
The cult of coaching is a lot of it emanates from the university itself.
How about half the ADs have the sweetest job they're ever going to have, and if they make a misstep on a coach, they're not going to get to hire another coach, and that's where the panic comes from. And not only ADs but presidents.
Yeah, you could be. That could be right. That could be part of it. No doubt about it. We've seen. We only lost one AD this season. Woodward down at LSU. Is he the only guy that's been fired and sent out the door with the coach? Can't remember. But it's just nuts, and it's not that way in the NFL. It's not that way. Every once in a while, somebody like Belichick stays forever, and then you have fiefdoms and kingdoms and Game of Thrones stuff going on. But otherwise, hey pal, we're paying you a lot of money, win football games, or the next guy's going to get the chance to.
Yeah,
and that's just the way it works.
I would say that of the slam dunks, I went to Kalen DeBoer because he's 121-17 or something like that. That is
pretty good.
A phenomenal, and he's won at the NAIA level. He won in the Mountain West with Washington and now Alabama. He was at Fresno State in the Mountain West, and that guy doesn't seem to fall down. That bad year, that time he went 9-3 at Fresno State, that was terrible.
Well, and that's a good point. And if you're going to extend the line that far, we might need to go to Kurt Signetti. It's my understanding that he wins a lot. You can Google it up.
Yep.
So it's interesting because Signetti and DeBoer are from the family of. Yeah, he hasn't coached at big time places, but he's won everywhere he goes.
Would you put Willie Fritz? Would you put Willie Fritz in that group?
He's not quite as high, but I would put him in that group because he has done a great job. To me, it goes back to the MAC. In fact, I was sitting down thinking about writing about this today. I was going to tell OSU to go shopping at the MAC store for a coach because all kinds of people have turned their programs around and had long, great runs because they went and hired a MAC coach, Gary Pinkel at Missouri, Matt Campbell at Iowa State. This guy hadn't won big, but P.J. Fleck at Minnesota has been their best coach since Murray Warmath or somebody. And then was somebody else? Urban at Utah.
Urban Meyer and Rick Majerus, both hired by Chris Hill, so you can call Chris Hill and get a quote on those.
And then there's one more. There's one more. Lance Leipold at Kansas, Miracle Man. However, it's looking like all the candidates are coming from the American Conference this year. You got 5 prime candidates, not counting the coaches at Army and Navy who really don't fit anywhere. But anyway, I think rather than going after somebody that's won big at, like Lincoln at Oklahoma going to USC, Brian Kelly at Notre Dame going to LSU. In the MAC, it's egalitarian. Everybody's living the same life. You got the same resources. Akron and Kent State maybe a little bit less than anybody, but everybody else is on the same plane. And you got the same opportunity, and it's almost like the video game. Everybody's got the same console. And the best coaches win. And that seems to me to be a pretty good plan to go, a good place to go and have a plan, is go someplace where the coach is proven. To quote Bum Phillips talking about Don Shula, he said, when he said he can take urine and he can take hisn and beat urine, or he can take urine and beat hisn. So getting a guy that can just flat coach doesn't seem like a terrible idea.
We have a high school coach in our community. His record is 110 wins and 9 losses. Is that pretty good?
Well, it seems pretty good. I'd have to know the particulars. Let me ask you guys, Utah high school football. are the final scores. I don't care. Forget the win, who's winning, and whatnot. Just looking at the scores, are they totally out of control?
In what way?
In terms of, we have a bunch of 69-7 games at the high level.
They can be
like in
lopsided.
the highest levels.
We have open enrollment, so if you're at one public school, you can go to another. And so that leads, especially, we have 6 classes, and in the biggest class especially, you see the best players congregating at a handful of programs. And over time, that's changed, but that's been an ongoing story for the 30 years that PK and I have worked here. Different schools, it was Skyline, it was Bingham, it's Corner Canyon, it's Sky Ridge, Lone Peak, whatever. It's different schools, but that's when you get to the smaller classes like 4A and 5A, I think you see a little less of that. And you see some better games and more competition and more drama.
Well, we don't have 30 years of free agency, but we're coming up on 10 or so. It's just getting bad, and I mean, we got pretty good team. We got the best team in the state. They're beating people 72-3.
Yeah.
So, I mean, pretty good teams, and so I don't know. It's not the kind of athletic competition that interests me.
You got to know Mike Leach well, didn't you?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Well, this guy is 110-9. He's a disciple of Mike Leach because Mike, he went to BYU. His family all lives in town still. And so he used to come back in the summers when he was at Tech because his high school buddy was a high school coach. And the coach, who's 110-9, was the offensive coordinator. And so Mike would teach these guys the offensive philosophies that he had. And now at the time he was a young man, now he's in his 40s, learned at the foot of Mike Leach and then has gone on and has won 110 games and has only lost 9. My wife taught at the school for many years, so I know the guy really well. And then Jackson Dart and what's the kid? Zach Wilson, they were there. His quarterbacks, just to give you a reference point. So the philosophies of Mike Leach, and obviously he died way too young, still lives on in high school football in Utah. Interesting story.
Let me ask you guys. I hadn't really thought about this, and I haven't studied it, but when Leach came around and went to Tech in 2000, my memory is that he did a whole lot of fourth down, not punting. 4th and 3 from his own 38. He went for it quite a bit. Is he the father of the newfangled analytics of don't punt unless you really have to?
Yeah, I think you can make that argument. I certainly can't throw out anybody else.
No, I can't either.
Right.
I didn't thought of that. I always thought that was the best way to go. Because if I'm watching a football game where I have a vested interest, I want one team to win. And the other team has the ball at midfield, let's say third quarter, close game. It's not a pivotal point in the game. 4th and 3 at midfield. The other team has the ball. What do you want that team to do? You want them to go for it or punt?
Well, the new phrase these days is complementary football, so what's the level of your defense? If you have zero confidence in your defense, you ought to go for it. But if you think your punter's decent and your defense is decent, you can get the ball back at the 50 with a new set of downs in 3 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's true. But if I'm playing defense right there, I want them to punt.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no question.
You want them to punt. Give me the ball.
Yeah, I agree.
So why would a team, unless you're just not any good on offense, why would you punt? The other team wants you. Why were you doing what the other team wants? I think a lot of the new analytics is not numbers based as much as just common sense. We finally figured out we don't have to act like the masses. We don't have to do what everybody else does.
Right.
We can sort of think for ourselves.
I like that, but I think the bigger question, and we had it here with Utah and BYU, is you've got 4th and 3 on the 28-yard line. Do you go for a field goal or do you go for the first down? And the Utes went for first downs, and they didn't get them. And theoretically, you don't know what's going to happen, but theoretically, they left points out on the field, and then they lose by 3. And then the next week, they come back, and Kyle Whittingham is basically taunting us in the crowd. You think you know more than analytics? You don't. And as the thing is winding up, they give you 15. You get 2 minutes on Tuesday to talk to them, and you get 15 minutes on Monday, and then you get about 7 to 10 minutes after the game. That's pretty much the way it is in terms of how they've regulated his accessibility to the media. And I guess he does a coach's show. I don't listen to it. But anyway, he does that. And so as that thing is winding up on Monday, if any of you want to go check the analytics, come with me right now. And that's about as what's the word? Fiery or confrontational, maybe, is
combative.
A better word. Combative. That he gets these days. He'll be 66 a week from today, I think. So he's got it made in the shade. Obviously, he's not going to get fired. But he was willing to die on that hill that analytics says you go for it. And they didn't get it multiple times, and then they ended up leaving points potentially. A field goal could have been blocked, returned for a touchdown. Who knows?
Missed.
But it could obviously have been missed. But that was his. I think that's the bigger issue. What do you do in that situation as opposed to that? Yeah, go for it at midfield. But when you have an opportunity to have a realistic field goal to put points on the board, what do you do then?
Yeah, it's a better argument in the NFL. Be a better debate because part of it is assured. You're going to make the field goal. You know, if you got a kicker that can't make a 46-yard field goal, then next week you'll have a different kicker who can.
Right.
So, but in college it does get a little squirrely. You know, I went to a football game 2 weeks ago where a team kicked 110, 160, 201 yards worth of field goals. 4 field goals, 40, 51, 55, 55.
Nice.
And they won the game by, 6 points. So if you got a kicker, it's a wonderful weapon. I don't blame sometimes getting the points. But I enjoy the modern football because it's not automatic. Because people aren't just saying, well, we're going to punt. 4th down, we're on the minus side of the field, we got to punt.
I agree.
And I think it's fun to we've gotten a crust out of coaches' eyes, and they're starting to do different things, and I like that.
Barry, we got to run. We appreciate it as always, and we will talk to you again next week.
All right, guys. See you later.
There's Berry Tramel, Tulsa World columnist, longtime college football writer and columnist. Coming up, Riley Jensen, our college football expert, talking about the local teams. We'll get Riley's take on Texas Tech, BYU, and a potential rematch. Stay with us. That's next right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.